In the world we live in today, the richest 1% of the population controls 48% of the total wealth, and the top 80 richest individuals are worth as much as half the world's population, or roughly 3.5 billion people. When considering these figures, there is no doubting the fact that there is a separation between the rich and the poor. While many people assume these wealthy individuals gain their wealth by being born into wealth or winning the lottery, that simply isn't true. In fact, only 11 out of the 80 richest individuals were passed down their fortunes, with the other 69 having made their wealth through their own hard work and determination. And one of these 69 individuals is none other than the investor mogul himself, Warren Buffett. Like the majority of these rich individuals, Warren Buffett grew up in a middle-class family, but found a way to amass the knowledge and skills that would eventually lead him to accumulating a wealth of over $70 billion. Undoubtedly, we have all seen people living in excess and others living with next to nothing. But have you ever taken a second to think about what truly separates the rich from the poor? Sure, the obvious answer is that the rich have significantly more money than the poor, but I'm talking about the reasons beyond the dollars and cents. When you think about it, a rich and a poor person can live in the same city, have access to the same jobs, and both only have 24 hours in the day. Yet one can be living paycheck to paycheck, while the other can have more money than they could spend in an entire lifetime. So what truly makes the difference between someone who will amass billions of dollars in their lifetime and someone who will struggle financially forever? Well, using our rich friend John and our poor friend Tim to explain, I will outline exactly what separates the two, so you can adopt these rich person habits and realize financial prosperity in your own life. Before we get going, you should know that both John and Tim have similar IQs, come from middle-class families, and live in the same city. In short, neither man has any advantage over the other. However, their bank accounts are at total opposite ends of the money spectrum. It's Monday afternoon, and both John and Tim commute home from work. When Tim gets home, he goes over to his couch, turns on Netflix, and binge watches hours of mindless TV to numb himself from the long workday he had. While Tim's boss recommended that he should read more books in order to increase his chances of getting promoted this year, Tim can't be bothered to read, especially now that a new season of his favorite show has come out. When John arrives home, he immediately logs into his computer to start studying. Hours pass as John reviews his notes for his upcoming exam. While John already has a master's degree and multiple designations, he continues to put in a few hours every night to work towards another accreditation, which will help him scale the corporate ladder faster. In fact, John recently learned that one of his idols, Dan Lok, invests over $500,000 a year into continuous learning. John figures that if millionaires are investing that much time and money into learning new things, then he should definitely do the same. Therefore, difference number one between the rich and the poor is that the rich never stop learning. At work the next day, Tim's boss begins handing out bonuses to all of the employees. As Tim opens up his envelope, he sees that he's gotten a $100 bonus, much less than all of his peers. Tim goes up to his boss and complains, saying that he's been at the company for 10 years and this is an embarrassing bonus to have received. His boss goes on to point out that Tim never stays late to help his team and that his productivity has dropped every year since he started. Across town, John is plowing through his current project at work when his boss approaches him. His boss hands him an envelope, and as he opens it, he sees in front of him a $10,000 check in his name. John is stunned and very appreciative of the generous bonus. John's boss goes on to explain that John has been putting in a ton of hours as of late, and his last project saved the company $1 million in operating expenses. So, to recognize his work, this was the least they could do. Therefore, difference number two is the rich sell value and the poor sell time. The following week, Tim is counting down the days until Thursday, which is when he gets paid. As soon as his boss gives him his bi-weekly check, he rushes to the bank and begins sending out payments to all of his creditors. He sends money to his landlord, to his hydro company, and of course his monthly installment for income tax. As Tim gets to the end of the month, he decides to see just how much money he saved. As he opens his balance, he realizes that not only did he not save any money, but that his account was lower than it was a month prior. Tim has no idea where all the money could have gone. When John gets paid, $500 is automatically deducted and is funneled into a savings account that he can't access. After making sure his savings have been funded for the month, John then makes his mortgage payment, pays his utilities company, and makes his monthly installment of income taxes to the government. At month's end, John smiles as he notices that once again, his bank balance has grown, making him even richer than he already is. Therefore, difference number three is the rich pay themselves first, while the poor pay themselves last. One night after work, Tim is watching TV and sees an ad for a new high-definition television that is being released. The TV costs $1,000, which is all that Tim can afford to spend on entertainment devices for the year. While Tim contemplates this purchase, he has also been dying to buy the new PlayStation that just came out, but at a cost of $500, there is no way he can get both. Tim sulks, wishing that his boss didn't suck and had given him a bigger bonus so that he could afford to buy both. After passing his exam, John wants to treat himself for his hard work and decides that he wants to buy himself a new gaming system and TV. John too only has a budget of $1,000 for his purchase, but really wants both the new state-of-the-art TV and the PlayStation console. Instead of deciding between the two, John asks himself how he can get both. John figures that he can take on a side consulting project to earn the extra $500 he needs to cover the cost of the PlayStation and build himself the perfect gaming setup to celebrate his big accomplishment. Therefore, difference number 4 is that the rich have a growth mindset, while the poor have a fixed mindset. Because Tim dreads going into work every day, he has made grabbing a Frappuccino from Starbucks a staple in his morning routine. Without his sugar-filled latte, Tim knows he couldn't even make it through just a few hours at work, which makes him more than happy to trade $5 a day for his morning jolt of caffeine. John, on the other hand, walks right by Starbucks every day, and instead of getting an expensive latte, he drinks the free coffee that's served at work. Sure, the coffee isn't as good as a Starbucks drink, but being able to save $5 a day on coffee is well worth it in his eyes. You see, John has been saving up that $5 a day for a year and now has $1,500, which he is going to use to go on an all-inclusive trip to Mexico with his friends. John also knows that this delaying of gratification helps him embody the traits of his fellow rich peers, as he learned while reading a Temple University study. The study ranked the most important factors in determining affluence. Occupation, education, location, and gender topped the list. But delaying instant gratification beat out many of the more traditional signals, including age, race, ethnicity, and height. Researchers believe that a person's ability to envision larger future rewards makes them much less likely to succumb to short-term pleasures, which is why turning down a daily latte was easy when envisioning all the fun he would have on the beach in Mexico with his friends. Therefore, difference number 5 is that the rich understand the power of delaying gratification, whereas the poor seek short-term pleasure. As the economy starts to fall on hard times, many companies begin to lay people off as a cost-cutting tactic. As Tim is sitting at his desk one afternoon scrolling through Facebook and doing the bare minimum to keep his job, he gets a note from his boss. The message says, "Please hand in your laptop and badge at the front desk. We are letting you go." Tim begins to freak out, wondering how he will pay his rent and bills now that his sole source of income is gone. Tim always believed that being an employee meant having job security, and after getting fired, he began to wonder if this impression was wrong to have held for so many years. Unfortunately for John, he too is let go by his boss. In an exit interview, John's boss talks for an hour about how great of a worker he is, and how he had to let go of all the other employees before finally letting John go. John graciously accepted his fate and thanked his boss for the opportunity and reassured him that he would be fine financially. You see, John knew that no job is secure, which is why as soon as he entered the workforce, he began building an online business and contributed to a dividend stock portfolio, which are now established enough to keep him afloat until he finds another job. Therefore, difference number 6 is that the rich build several streams of income, while the poor rely on only one. About a week after getting let go, Tim is at home moping with his other loser friends about how much the economy sucks and how it will be nearly impossible to find another job. They go on about how unfair life has been to them and how they would be rich if they had gotten the same lucky breaks as others. The evening after getting let go, John invites his close friends over to his house for dinner. As the group are eating, John explains that due to the hard economic times, he has been let go by his company, but reassures his friends that his other sources of income will more than support his current lifestyle. One friend excitedly says that this is the perfect time for John to join his construction company and offers him an executive position. Another friend chimes in and asks John if he wants to start a consulting company with her, as the two have worked so well together in the past and could become one of the leading firms in the city in no time. Therefore, difference number 7 is that the rich surround themselves with other rich people, whereas the poor surround themselves with other broke individuals. In 1997, Robert Kiyosaki published a personal finance book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The book instantly became a phenomenal success, and in no time catapulted Kiyosaki to the world of fame. In one of his books, he mentions that there is a disparity between being rich and being wealthy. And he went on and said something surprising, that the rich have lots of money, but the wealthy don't worry about money. And I found this very interesting, because I've always thought that the two go hand in glove. That if you're rich, then you're also wealthy, and that if you're wealthy, then you're probably living a very comfortable life. But this isn't always true. When I think about someone who's rich, I think about someone with a lot of money. And I typically think about someone who's quite showy with their money. They drive fancy cars and live in a fancy house. They wear fancy clothes and eat at fancy restaurants. Growing up, I wanted to be rich. I wanted to own a big house, live in a fancy neighborhood, drive a luxury car, and buy expensive clothes. I wanted to sit in the best seats at sporting events and travel the world anytime I wished. Heck, I wanted to go to Mars. And I've got to be honest, some of those things still sound good to me now. Kiyosaki said, "The rich have lots of money, but the wealthy don't worry about money." I thought about this for a while. The wealthy don't worry about money. Growing up, I've lived in a relatively financially stable family. We're not rich, but we're not poor either. We're middle class, if you will. Both my parents work 9-to-5 jobs, and they work really hard to provide for me and my siblings. Somehow, they've managed to pay for mine and my siblings' tuition, while at the same time making sure we have food to eat and a roof over our heads. I can't say things have always been rosy. There have been months where money was a serious concern, and we weren't sure whether they would manage to pay for all our tuition, bills, and expenses. I watched my parents struggle, and I didn't ever want to live a life like that. And when I read that statement, "The wealthy don't worry about money," I thought to myself, well, that must be a really nice thing to have. Imagine never having to ever worry about money. Who wouldn't want that? I want to be wealthy and rich. So I decided to do a bit of digging to try and find out the difference. You see, having lots of money is nice and all, but I believe not ever having to worry about money is even better. So after a bit of research, this is what I found out, and I think this might surprise you a lot. There actually is a difference between being rich and being wealthy. The simple difference between a rich person and a wealthy person is that a wealthy person has sustainable wealth. In other words, a wealthy person will always be wealthy, whereas someone who is merely rich will only be rich for a short period of time, until the money runs out. I'm sure a lot of you have heard stories of rich actors, celebrities, professional athletes, and so on, who were once living fancy lifestyles, with big houses, nice cars, expensive clothes, and vacationing all over the world, but are now on the verge of financial bankruptcy because of poor financial skills and trying to sustain this kind of lifestyle for many years. You've heard of the lottery winner who went to bed one night in debt and woke up the next day an instant millionaire. But due to poor financial management, ends back up where they started, or in an even worse situation. So let's use Lucas as an example. Lucas is a surgeon with an annual income of $310,000. Most of this income is earned from his work, with only 5% coming from some investments a couple of his colleagues enticed him to invest in. By all accounts and standards, Lucas is a rich man. He has a big house, he's living in a good neighborhood, he has 2 luxury cars, one for himself and the other he bought for his wife. His children go to good private schools, and he has membership in the local country club. So clearly, Lucas has lots of money at his disposal. So, he uses this money to make sure he fits in and looks the part of a respectable surgeon in society. Obviously, Lucas has expenses, as does every other person. He has a mortgage to pay, he has transportation costs, he has to feed his young family, he has to pay health insurance, he has to pay taxes, he has to put aside money for his kid's college fund, and he has to buy another expensive anniversary gift this year. Did I mention the annual vacation he takes with his family? When you subtract these expenditures from his annual income, then remove the savings and the little investments he makes here and there, Lucas is not left with much. In total, Lucas spends about $21,500 every month on expenditures, and he has savings amounting to $43,500 in his bank account. And so, since wealth is defined as the status of an individual's financial resources to sustain the individual's way of living for a long period of time, even if the individual stops working. In essence, this is money coming in on a consistent basis that's able to sustain your current standard of living for many years. This means that should Lucas lose his job today, together with all the benefits accruing from it, Lucas should be able to feed his family for only 2 months, after which he'll immediately need to find an alternative source of income. Lucas is rich. He's not wealthy. Now, let's look at an example of a wealthy person. Kiyosaki said that while the rich have lots of money, the wealthy don't really have to worry about money. Let's look at Bill Gates. Bill Gates is one of the richest men in the world. He's a business magnate, an investor, a philanthropist, a humanitarian, and an author. As of early 2018, Bill Gates was worth a mammoth $94.7 billion. It's estimated that every second, Bill Gates earns about $130, which translates to around $78,000 every minute. This is to say that in an hour, Bill makes more money than Lucas earns after a whole year of working. Yet Lucas is considered rich. Being wealthy is, essentially, being financially free. This means that you don't live paycheck to paycheck, and you don't necessarily need to make any more money over a long period of time,
because you have enough money saved or passive income flowing in from your assets and investments to maintain your current lifestyle for the rest of your life. Bill Gates doesn't actively work for the $135 that he made this second, or the almost $78,000 he will earn by the end of this video. This is passive income that he gets in his sleep, when he is playing golf, and when he is giving away $4 billion annually to causes that he cares about. Wealth is sustainable richness. Basically, a rich person who never runs out of money. If Lucas quits his job today, he will most likely get bumped into the middle class. If Bill Gates decided to retire today and become a sedentary person who eats, sleeps, and eats again, he could maintain his current lifestyle for the next 213 years. But you don't necessarily need to have Bill Gates kind of money or own a large business like Microsoft. As long as you have income flowing in that you're not directly working for, such that if you were to stop working today, but you can still maintain your current standard of living, then you are considered wealthy. Usually, when you think of a rich person, you think of someone who buys both their wants and their needs. You know, the $5,000 suit, the $3,000 watch, a luxury imported car, usually German-made, the big house on the beach, and so on. Just because someone exhibits these quote-unquote rich behaviors, it doesn't mean that they have their personal finances in order. Sometimes these people you consider rich are actually living paycheck to paycheck or drowning in debt. Many people who say, "I want to be rich," aren't actually looking for financial security. What they want is the social status and prestige they associate with the $1 Million Club. So, now I pose this question to you. Do you want to be rich or do you want to be wealthy? And if so, how?